Welcome to Empowerment Radio. My name is Dr. Friedemann, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Empowerment Radio is about giving you the insights, tools, and solutions to address some of the most challenging aspects of our daily lives. So sit back, relax, and empower yourself. Love is in the air. It's the month of love, anyhow, and I'm here with Gary, who has just so many wonderful things to share about love and how to create a more secure relationship. Now, Gary, how can people find you and talk a little bit about your book?
Okay. Well, you can find me at www.garysalyer, GarySalyer.com. There's all sorts of good stuff there. There's even a video series you could sign up for. The book is on Amazon. It's called Safe to Love Again: How to Release the Pain of Past Relationships and Create the Love You Deserve. It's for both singles and couples. I split the difference because
it's excellent book. Yeah, sorry. Because?
Thank you. It's really interesting. I was going to make it just for singles at first. And I have a really good friend who's, she's been married to Jim for like 20 years. They have a great marriage. And she's reading the book, and she calls me after reading the second chapter. She goes, I'm mad at you. I'm going, why? She goes, why do you not want to speak to me simply because I'm a happily married woman? She goes, you don't think I have issues in my marriage? Well, I do, and I want help too. And she convinced me that I had to write it about singles and couples. I was going to write two different books. And so it's for both. And a lot of people feel that all it'll do is I wrote the book for how can you know what it feels like to be loved? Because for most of us that grew up in less than wonderful families, or maybe had a bad relationship, that'll do it too, as maybe a first marriage, we forget what it's like, or we never got the feeling. And so we go through life with these missing feelings, and unworthy or disempowered is our reference. And then we wonder why love goes away. And the book is a homecoming with your heart. It's about, and you'll just feel that's what it meant to feel like. And it's not the deep work I do. I can't do that in a book, but it gives people real GPS, like, oh, this is where true north is. That explains why I kept getting in the weeds.
And you really don't have to read the book if you feel like, only if you feel like your marriage is in trouble or your relationship has problems. If you have a great relationship and you feel perfectly happy, there is always an upgrade. There is always a way to connect more, to make it more solid, to go to the next level. And that's what I love about the book, that it's not just problem-oriented. It's actually about awareness. And it's about these things that we somehow feel, but we couldn't put our fingers on, or we didn't really know exactly what they meant. And in your book, you just make complete sense out of it. But I wanted to get to those two exercises. One is the stress relieving conversation, which I just find is a wonderful way to spend 10 or 20 minutes with your partner and feel so much closer afterwards. Can you just say a few words about that?
Oh, yeah. It's really interesting. The stress relieving conversation, it can either be a really wonderful way of doing welcome with joy, or maybe even it's cherished and protected, according to what came up. The research showed that when couples came in for work, and the difference between those who relapsed and went back to their ways and those who didn't was only one thing. The masters who didn't relapse were people that, maybe 4 or 5 times a week after work, they would have, or whenever it was appropriate, they would have stress relieving conversations. For 10 minutes each, they would just naturally share how their day went. Oh my God, my boss did this, or my best friend did that. And the stress relieving conversation isn't about giving advice. The other one did not listen. They did not criticize. They're like, well, I can see why your boss would do that. You do tend to show up late. They don't do stuff like that, right? What they did is they just listened. Oh, well, tell me more about how you felt. That must have felt horrible, honey. Tell me more. And when both partners just loved each other up, just listen. They did not do any fixing. It's just feeling with the other person, really resonating. Not saying, well, that was a tough day. Like, wow, that must have been really scary. Using emotion words. Well, gosh, that must have been frustrating. That was horrible. When they did that, it kept the stress from coming into their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And when stress comes into the relationship, we go into survival mode. And then we start treating each other. And then that's when old skills that don't work come out. So the big thing for couples to do is to make sure that 4 or 5 times a week, you are just listening without persuasion, just feeling. And for men, feel, resonate. That woman's going to want to hear a word like frustrated, angry, and yes, that's how I feel, right? It's a game changer. And
it is a game changer. And I think it's important to also mention that some, men and women feel then that a way to empathize is to bring it back to themselves. And that they say like, yeah, I know exactly how you feel because when I ... And it's also to avoid that, just, stay with your partner as the most important person to focus and witness and listen to, and don't bring it back to yourself, because I think that's also something that makes you feel welcomed with joy, to have undivided attention and not feel that the other person needs to give their opinion or their experience to it.
Exactly. Get off self, switch into the other person. It's all about their time. Yeah, if you do that, and the remedy is just to get curious, to ask open-ended questions. So what's the worst? Gosh, honey, what was the worst part about that? Oh my God. Well, what else were you feeling? And you can and you'll be able to know it's working because you'll see them, whew, oh my God, it was horrible. That you can see the parasympathetic reset. Their eyes will soften, their head will come forward. And you can tell when maybe it didn't resonate when they kind of go like this. You go, oh, did I get that wrong, honey? Well, that wasn't what. Well, what were you really feeling? Help me. And you can offer repair. It's easy enough to notice if they didn't feel felt. And the key is, do they feel felt? They feel felt good.
Right.
Yes.
And it's practice. You may not be perfect right away, but doing it, and maybe even having a little script that you have, like, oh, these are the questions that, I want to ask or want to be asked. It's not stilted. It really makes a difference, because on a deeper emotional subconscious level, you feel heard. And don't we all want to be heard at some point? Now, the other one is the famous bit, which I think is also, again, something that a lot of people are just not getting. You have 2 minutes to talk about the bit.
Okay, bids. Okay, all bids are under the feeling of worthy and nourished. Bids are bids for attention, hun. Can you help me with making supper tonight, right? Or honey, have we paid the mortgage today? Or what about this? Or did you see that bird over there? And bids come in three varieties. Do we turn toward them? Well, yeah, that bird reminds me of the one on our honeymoon. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. That's a great bid. That's a great response back. Then we feel worthy and nourished, right? But we can also do the turn away, where you don't even notice it. You're looking at your iPhone, going, "Did you say something?" Right? Or the other one is to turn against. Oh, honey, the bird isn't that important, right? Or I'm busy. You can do this. Can you cook supper yourself tonight? Right? Those are against. Now the masters turn towards each other, make each other feel worthy 86% of the time, and the couples that don't, we know from research, about 33% of the time. And so it's important to notice these bids. Love is really not big patterns. Is that it's in little tiny micro moments. I talk about managing the moment, and the more you can turn toward each other in a tuned way, feeling, let me see if I can stop this. You can't say, can we do it in a half hour when I can really help you, right? Or whatever. find a way to turn toward them so they feel nourished and worthy. And that's huge. This is actually the fundamental thing, right? Along with making what's called love maps, making mental notes of what they need ahead of time, right? So that you know that they like lots of sugar in their coffee, or they don't like coffee, so that they're not always having to do every bit for you, right?
Right.
So if you can do the bids and the stress relieving conversations, stay away from turning against or turning away. It's turning toward. That is a game changer. Most couples are horrible. And listening, just thinking about what the stress reducing conversation does. The average person in most conversations says 17 words before the other person interrupts. To give somebody a 10-minute conversation is a gift beyond measure.
And I really love it what you said just about the little things that matter. Often we are going into the romantic overkill on Valentine's Day and feeling, well, I show you how much I love you because I bought you 3 dozen roses and had a lavish dinner with you. But that's really nothing compared to, like you said, getting a little bit of attention or having some conversations where you just listen to. And thank you, Gary. We could talk for 2.5 hours. We could definitely extend this or longer. But it was just fabulous to have you on the show. And thank you for all your wisdom. Just give your website one more time so that people know how to find you.
Well, thank you, Friedemann. You're a wonderful man, wonderful soul. My website is www.garysalyer.com, GarySalyer. And you can get links to the book there, free gifts, all sorts of stuff.
Check it out. It's worth it. And it definitely, whether you're single or in a relationship, you can benefit from learning how to love securely yourself and others again. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.